Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of the Entertainment Show. All this month, we're looking back at cult classic TV series through the eras of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. These series are series that have lasted the dawn of time. They're still going strong and are being rerun and showing all over countries, all over the world, even to this day. This month, our special feature is the Dukes of Hazzard, which was an absolute smash hit, not only in cable TV all across the United States and Canada throughout the 80s and the late 70s and midway through the 80s as well. It was actually reruns and shown all over the world. It is a massive cult following in all the central states, all across the United States of America, even still to this day. And this week in the Dukes of Hazzard, we're looking back on our episode. We were going to season 6, episode 1. This actor has appeared in 2 episodes of Dukes of Hazzard. The first episode he appeared was aired on September the 23rd, 1983. In the episode, Lulu has been kidnapped. He played the character Billy Ray. And the second episode he aired on was in the season 7, episode 13, which aired on January the 4th, 1985, The Haunting of JD Hogg. And he played the character Sharp. If you're familiar with these episodes, you'll know that this character is the one and only, a renowned musician as well, Chris Mulkey. Chris, I suppose when people say the Dukes of Hazzard and associated Chris Mulkey's name to it, I saw your list of roles on IDMB Pro. I suppose you could be here to do an encyclopedia of A to C, how many sort of things you have been on in terms of the thing. Not many people would associate your name with Dukes of Hazzard, but was this one of the first things you did in terms of your TV acting career back in the early 80s?
Yeah, my TV acting career. Yeah, it's good to be here with you. It wasn't one of the first things. The first thing that I did was Beretta.
Okay.
I was a guest star in all those TV dramas all through the 70s and 80s into the 90s. But I have to tell you, I have to be honest with you, Dukes of Hazzard was one of the most fun shows I've ever been on. And I've been on a lot of shows. We kidnapped Boss Hogg's wife, Lulu. Of course, he didn't want her back. I don't want the woman back. So we rolled her up in a carpet and dropped her off in front of City Hall. Of course, we were arrested.
Yeah.
And but it was just a really great time working with those guys. And then my second episode it was the Haunting. But I recall that we stole the General Lee. Okay. That we actually stole the car.
Did you get to drive it?
Yeah.
Did you?
To that in Dukes of Hazzard, they
because normally it would be stunt doubles. I was just sort of wondering, did you actually get a chance to hop in the seat yourself?
Oh yeah, the General Lee, absolutely.
Okay.
And drive, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must have been a thrilling sort of a rush in terms of, because not many people, we see snap scenes and we go see close-ups, and obviously then we just see them behind the wheel, and then obviously it's the stunt double that does the actual thing. But you've actually sort of drove the General Lee yourself. In terms of car, what did it sort of feel like?
It was a great car. On that show, they let the guest stars who could drive really well, and I could drive really well. And they asked me, could you do a donut? A donut is where you crank the wheels and then accelerate and just go round and round. I mean, I know they do those all the time in Ireland on the wrong side of the road, but anyhow, but they kidding. Yeah. But so they let us do all of that stuff. They just flipped us the keys and said, can you slide it in here? Can you bring it in and just slide it in and stop? And I went, yeah, man, sure. And so we got to do all that stuff. And but I would never do a stunt or any driving or any fighting if it took money away from a stunt man having that job.
And Chris, we know the Dukes of Hazzard stunt team was one of the best in the business. It was the same sort of stunt team that was used in the A team, and we know how good that stunt team was. Well, but it was involved in Stephen Cannell's sort of productions as well. I suppose as the sort of a young sort of adolescent male, seeing those car chases and those car scenes and seeing all the flips, I suppose you could have actually, I suppose, as an actor, you could have actually been a spectator on those sort of sets and be enthralled, saying, I get to watch this for free. I don't have to pay to see some of these sort of flips, because some of the stunts that they did with some of those cars was absolutely incredible.
Well, they were daring guys, and they really knew what they were doing. And it's, when you see it live, it's more exciting even. You know, especially when they fly the cars and stuff like that. It's crazy. But you know, they know what they're doing, and sometimes guys get hurt, but nobody got hurt when I was working there, and you know, so that was great.
And I suppose, Chris, in terms of your roles, obviously you played the villain of the piece more often than not, the party pooper as well. But in terms of the Dukes of Hazzard, there was a story a long time, but it was a light-hearted story. We all knew what the sort of ending would be, and it was sort of good sort of humor, sort of comedy. But one thing that really struck me, and I suppose you probably got to see it up close, was we all talk about the Dukes, but really what made the show in terms was the chemistry, I thought, between Sorrel Buck and James Best, who played Roscoe and sort of Boss Hogg. That sort of comedy, sort of humor, and how they were able to roll off each other's sort of tongue as well. And getting to witness that, was that an absolute joy for you as an aspiring actor to see how they could play such comedy roles and try with a serious sort of complex to it as well?
Well, yeah, I was completely smitten by Catherine Bach. I mean,
okay,
not only a beautiful, she
yeah.
is a beautiful woman, and a really a delightful person. But being around, what's Roscoe's actor name?
James Best. James Best.
Yes, and
yeah,
he was so funny. All of those guys, as veteran actors, being able to hang around with them as a fledgling actor, it was such a tutorial for me about how to deal with your challenges on the sets, how to treat the other actors and the crewmen. It was great. So it was great fun, and they were always very respectful and down to business. They always knew what they were doing, but they had really a great joke. You know, Roscoe, the character Roscoe, he wore a fat suit.
yeah,
He was a skinny guy.
yeah.
You know, and he was, this fat suit's killing me. It's this thing. You should see me with this off. I look damn good. You know.
And I suppose, Chris, in terms of the Dukes of Hazzard, when you made your first guest appearance in season 6, I mean, at that stage, it was absolutely enormous throughout the United States on cable sort of TV. To land a guest starring role in the Dukes of Hazzard, obviously it was a big thing at the time, the 80s. You knew you were going to be seen all across America, probably all across Canada, and sort of a cable TV. And in terms of opportunities, having that on your resume, having that on your credits, that you appeared on a prime cable TV show like the Dukes of Hazzard in the 80s, it must have, obviously, dare I say, did it open a few doors that might have been closed otherwise?
Yes, it did open a few doors, and then to have me back was a very big favor. It was really wonderful. When I auditioned for it, I was a fan of the show, and John and Tom were really some of my favorite actors. So I was most thrilled about being able to work with them and doing the show, and I really didn't think about the exposure that it would give me. But yeah, after I did the show and it was on, you know, we had a viewing, 70 million people, the first viewing.
70 million back in the 80s, like.
Yeah.
If you saw those sort of numbers there today, there's TV movie premieres that come out in the 20th century that don't get those sort of figures. But in terms of the Dukes of Hazzard, and I suppose when you appeared on, and you appeared on a good few shows in the 80s, you probably, in terms of going, do the project, obviously then move on to whatever agent comes about, whatever sort of next opportunity that comes about. Did you get sort of feelings on some shows that, yeah, that I make appearance this, that maybe in that this might be repeated again? Or do you get that sort of feeling when you sat on the set of Dukes of Hazzard that people are going to be still watching this in 20 years, 30 years time, and I'm still going to turn on the TV there someday and I'm going to see a 30-year-old version or a late 20s version of myself on TV that I can still look at there today? And some shows, obviously, that you did in the 80s that probably didn't happen, but the Dukes of Hazzard, I suppose the reruns keep going even to this day, I think.
Somebody called me from, they were in Italy, they were in Rome.
Okay.
And they called me. Who was it? My sister, one of my relatives was in Rome, and they walked into their hotel room. They turned on the television at night, and on television in Rome, in Italian, was one of my Dukes of Hazzard, and they were playing, and they were going, "Oh my God!" I said, "Why are you calling me from Rome?" And they said, "I just wanted this a brief call because it was hardwire, you know. You're speaking Italian on Dukes of Hazzard. Goodbye, I love you."
And obviously, your probably first reaction to that was, "How did I sound in Italian?"
Yeah, I asked them that. Fabulous.
Yeah. But Chris, even to this day, I suppose the residuals still come into the store, come into your doorstep. Even they might buy a tea bag for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. But when you still get to sort of see that envelope with the Dukes of Hazzard, does it still surprise you, or just say, "Well, I get 10 or 15 of those a year anyway"?
I have a huge log of television appearances. I think I've done 105 movies and 350 television shows, maybe. And so I get residual checks all the time. And because of the COVID virus, honestly, because we're not making new shows, the reruns have been copious. And so I did a couple months ago get checks for both of my Dukes of Hazzard. And I can't remember, it depends on the licensing thing. If it goes for the cable TV or DVD or whatever, so it's kind of a graded thing. But yeah, I'm thankful. I'm gonna sneeze.
And I suppose you're a singer yourself, and I suppose one thing about Dukes of Hazzard and you associated with is the country music sort of team. We've the likes of Waylon Jennings, Tammy Wynette appeared in it, and it's probably one of those where country music is sort of favorite. It's probably one of the most favorite sort of shows in relation to sort of country music as well, especially around southern sort of America as well. So I imagine if you were in some of those states, people will be able to tell you straight off what episode you were in, and in terms of the diehard fans and what sort of lines you had, even if you couldn't even remember yourself even to this day.
It's amazing. People memorize my lines from shows sometimes. It's amazing. I'm going to learn that theme song from Dukes of Hazzard, and I'm going to post it on YouTube in your honor.
Okay, Chris. That's going to be a good note to know. That'll sort of attract extra sort of attention anyway in terms of social media. As they say, any publicity is good publicity. There's never such thing as a bad publicity, Chris. Chris, in terms of TV series throughout the 80s and the 90s, one thing that sort of struck me was the idea of recurring sort of roles where you could appear on one show and say season 1 as one character, and in season 5 play a different character altogether in a different episode. And you could be a good guy in the season 1 episode, and you could be a bad guy in season 5 episode. And that was seen to be a recurring role in the 80s. Now in the 21st century, in the early 2000s or 2010, that's unheard of, because people will say, wait, didn't he appear in season 1 as such and such a character? And obviously TV directors then hesitate to bring a character back again, because obviously he's played one character in the series, and even if it might be a minor sort of role as well, there's no sort of appearing back. But that was a common sort of trend in the 80s. And was that something you sort of found out yourself aside from the Dukes of Hazzard? Was that a sort of team?
Yes, I did two shows on Dukes of Hazzard. I did 2 shows on Chips.
Okay.
And I did 2 shows on Beretta.
2 shows.
And each time I would change. Let me see. On Beretta, I wore a sports jacket, and Beretta beat me up in a club. And then I came back and had a really cool bandolon, pimpy kind of shirt, and I was a cocaine seller like a year later. And then Dukes of Hazzard, I had a jean jacket and I had a leather jacket. So we changed the jackets.
The jackets.
And on Chips, I had a T-shirt and a leather jacket.
I suppose these days it would take probably cosmetic sort of surgery. You'd have to put on the whole sort of the bald hair, wig cap, and every sort of thing. So that's the way it's sort of gone in sort of the 21st sort of century. But
Oh, I just said that now the trend is, to your point, now the trend is that they'll do, your character will have an arc on the show. Like I've done a ton of them, like Boardwalk Empire was HBO, and of course Twin Peaks, and then I had other television. Let me see. I did. I mean, so much stuff. But anyhow, so you tend to be the same guy, and I rather liked being a different guy in a different jacket. Murder, She Wrote. I was a maitre d' in one, and an evil young attorney in another.
Evil young attorney as well. She's still going well, Angela Lansbury. God bless her. I know.
Yeah, she's amazing. I can't say enough good things about her as far as the lead character on a show, and they had me back, and she was generous and smart and beautiful and just a lovely, lovely person to work with. Yeah.
And I suppose, Chris, in terms of your memories of Dukes of Hazzard, is there any sort of particular sort of memory from your time on set, or a particular sort of story that sort of resonates or even holds your attention to your day, that when someone mentions the Dukes of Hazzard, it's sort of the bell goes, the eureka moment goes off in the head? Wait, do you hear this sort of thing that I've got to tell you? Have you any one of those for us?
There's 2. Okay. The one is getting Lulu into the trunk of the car.
Okay.
And she was deathly afraid of getting in the trunk of the car. And so we were, now be careful. And we were. And the other story that comes to my mind immediately is at the end of the 2nd episode, when they catch me, and Tom and I have a fist fight in an amusement park in Magic Mountain, actually. And we're having a fist fight, and we're throwing punches, and it's all choreographed. But Tom turned his head the wrong way as I went like this, and I punched him smack on the cheek, right in the eye.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he said, "I screwed that up, didn't I?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you kind of turned the wrong way." He says, "I'm such an idiot." And I said, "No, are you okay?" And he said, "No, you didn't hit me hard," because I didn't like, I pulled it, but I smacked him square in the face. Oh my God.
That's an interesting team, because actually I was speaking to another actor last week in terms of Dukes of Hazzard, and he told me he gave John Schneider a black eye in terms of that. So John had to sort of actually the whole weekend sort of before the shoot on the Saturday and Sunday, when they stopped filming Friday, he had to ice it all Saturday and Sunday to try and get it down for the filming of the Monday. In terms of the eye was just completely swollen shut in terms of the weekend. So interesting sort of team that just goes to show you with choreography now, even to this day, things like that would be, I suppose it would be an absolute major sort of panic zone. And those days you just got on with it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, when John Voight and I played partners in the series 24, we ran the Blackwater intelligence group, and in the end, we had a breakup and we had a fight.
Yeah.
And John had a decanter that made of plexiglass full of iced tea, but it looked like a carved glass decanter. And he's pouring a drink, and then we have words, And then he goes, well, I've had it with you. And he swings, and bam, I turn my head, and then I take 2 steps and I look back at him, and then he swings again, and I stagger to the thing, and he goes boom, boom, and I fall over the railing.
Yeah.
So we've been doing it for a couple hours, and John kept getting closer and closer and closer, right?
Yeah.
And I said to the stunt guy, I said, you know, he's getting closer. And the stunt guy's going, yeah, I'll talk to John. So
Okay.
very next take, we get it all worked out. You know, we go, have words. He goes, bam, I turn my head, I take 1 step, I don't get a chance to look back, and he clocks me on the side of the head and busts the side of my head wide open.
Okay.
And then I put my hand over it to keep it off, because I had this Armani like suit on and everything,
Okay.
and white carpeting on the set too.
Okay.
So I got to the railing, and I'm dripping over the railing, and they're going cut, and John goes, he says, Mulkey, did I catch you? I knew him John for like 25 years.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, I'm so sorry. And I said, oh, that's okay, John. I said, it happens. He says, it must be this decanter. I said, no, you hit me with the decanter. You smacked me with it. Yeah, but it shouldn't cut you. I said, no, you really hit me. So I had, let me see what side. It's right here. He had 10 sticks. And then he called me up at home, and he said, do you hate me? And I said, nah, you're okay. You're okay. But you know, I did that to Ron Perlman. I opened up his face. So it's like, you know, stuff happens when you're doing action stuff. So it's like, but then, so that was I think that was on a Thursday, and we had Friday off, and Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, they took the stitches out. And Tuesday, I went back to work and finished the episode.
And Chris, in terms of Dukes of Hazzard, I suppose time is nearly catching up on us now. In terms of your character, once you found the script and the role, what was your sort of ideas in terms of, you saw those 2 different characters? Did you feel coming back the second time that you had to sort of maybe push the boundaries, push the boat in terms of character to try and make him differentiate him for the first time? Was that going through your head in terms of, how do I make this guy a bit different so people won't think that it's the same sort of person? Obviously, your different role, where you start to thinking to yourself, how can I maybe go that bit extra, put it out there in terms of differentiating?
Honestly, I didn't worry about that at all. The storyline, the action is different, you know, and it was just, it's okay. It's like, I figured, well, you know, I'll just do the action and not worry about it. It's, hey, I got a different jacket on, for crying out loud, you know. And yeah, I didn't give it a thought.
Didn't give it a thought. And I suppose, lastly, in terms of family and loved ones, and I suppose people who care about you, how does that sort of resonate with people when you tell them that you've been on the Dukes of Hazzard? So I suppose you've been on so many things that they probably don't take a second notice to it, but does it still surprise loved ones or someone when you mention a word? Did they say, Chris, I don't recall or don't remember that you were on the Dukes of Hazzard? And you can say, yeah, I was.
My family was all my family on both of my sides, you know, all my cousins down, of course, they live down south in Georgia. So big fans of the show. And so when I was on Dukes of Hazzard, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. A really big deal. And because it was one of the prime time hit shows in America and really all over the world, people watched it. They really tuned in. Now there are so many channels and so many choices in the television world that it has less impact. But at that time, I mean, 70 million people. Oh my God, you know, it was a big deal. And I got a lot of calls from my relatives, my mom, my dad, my relatives. Yeah.
And I suppose the penultimate question, I just got one more for you. In terms of, we were doing an other cult sort of classic sort of show from the 80s, was the A-Team. Did the opportunity ever come about for you to star in that with Stephen Cannell? Did you ever try out for part? Just sort of curious, just my own sort of mind in relation to that.
I did a bunch of Stephen Cannell shows. I never, I think I tried out for the A team. I think I
Okay.
tried out for one of the guys on the A team, and then, um, you know, but I was at Canal a lot. I think I did. I'm sorry,
No problem.
my other device is being obnoxious.
No.
Yeah, Stephen Cannell was an amazing television producer, and he had a lot of shows going on. I think it had 4 or 5 shows, different shows of Stephen Cannell's, and I think Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, I think I did multiples on another show of his too. I can't
Okay.
recall.
Okay. And I suppose, Chris, lastly, you are a real sort of renowned musician as well, and you hope maybe at the end of the COVID sort of coming to, hopefully, please God, by the summer we'll see it sort of gradually slowly dissolve. You're hoping to get out and about touring again, and I hear you're hoping to come to mainland Europe and maybe stopping off for a night in Ireland or so.
I am. I'm hoping to get out there. I'm going to do the Bill Murray celebrity event in St. Augustine, Florida, in a week,
Okay.
and play music there with Bill, and for charity. But then I'm coming over to Ireland the first part of October, and I'm going to bring my git fiddle, at least one of them, 14 of them, and play a little bit and see my relatives over there, and then flip over to Germany and sign some autographs. And when I do the celebrity appearances, I always sit at the table, and I'm always playing my guitar. But you can get my music on Spotify, just Chris Mulkey on Spotify, and rock out to it. But
Chris Mulkey on Spotify. Yeah, do check it out. Do sign up and do listen. Chris, I suppose time has caught up on us, sadly, and it's important to note again for anyone listening in terms of the cult classics, in terms of Chris's episodes on the Dukes of Hazzard. We are featuring the Dukes of Hazzard this month. If you want to actually see those episodes in particular, and you're wondering what sort of shows he appeared on, what sort of seasons he appeared on, Season 6 of the Dukes of Hazzard, episode 1. The episode was called Lulu Has Been Kidnapped. He played the character Billy Ray, and he appeared also in Season 7, episode 13, The Haunting of JD Hogg, and he played the character Sharp. So do check out those episodes of Chris Mulkey in the Dukes of Hazzard. And Chris, no doubt about it, when they do the next reunion, hopefully they'll have a shout out for you to come on to the Dukes of Hazzard and say your own stories when you sit down with John and Tom the next time, hopefully you meet them. But for the moment, Chris, God bless. Hopefully the music career goes well for you, and hopefully you can get on the back of the road traveling and doing what you love.
Well, thanks so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. You're a lot of fun, and hey, we'll see you over there.
Cheers. Take care, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.